Now, I've got a confession to make. I did not watch the leaders' debate in full. I just couldn't bear it. Honestly, if you haven't decided which way you're voting by now, there's nothing that watching two guys arguing about the way that they want the Titanic to sink that's going to actually stop the boat from sinking. Too many Australians continue to buy the tedious lies of the left about free this and free that, and we're going to spend more on this and we're going to spend more on that. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing is free. We live on planet Earth, there are limited resources, and nothing is free. Either the user pays voluntarily for a thing, or the taxpayer is forced to pay involuntarily on the user's behalf. Economics really is that simple.
In 40 years, there has not been a higher spending government than your government. Is that correct?
Well, that's not true, except for the one that you were a part of.
Thanks to both the major parties' ridiculous overspending in the past decade or two, Australia is now sitting on $1.5 trillion of highly irresponsible federal and state government debt, when a country as resource-rich as ours should really have zero debt. We pay a fortune for government services. We are taxed incessantly by all levels of government. We're charged again for government services that we've already paid for over and over again. And we have governments incentivising police to go after law-abiding citizens who don't wear a seatbelt or who maybe touch their mobile phone for a second, because law-abiding citizens have got money to pay these ridiculous $1,000 fines for petty misdemeanours. Meanwhile, they ignore children committing actual crime, vandalism, stealing cars, doing break-and-enters, because actually punishing them would cost the government more money than it would raise. Anyway, we are staring down the barrel of a Labor Green Teal coalition government. So it was fitting that we kind of had to endure the Marxist clown Adam Bandt, the leader of the Greens, making yet another appearance at the National Press Club the very next day after the leaders' debate. Here's how Sky News saw that.
If we don't stop the bastards, house prices will get further and further out of reach. Perhaps the biggest bastard of them all was John Howard, former Liberal Prime Minister, who single-handedly put house prices out of reach of first home buyers with the capital gains tax discount in 1999.
Now, for a comprehensive analysis of why the capital gains tax discounts brought in by John Howard and negative gearing have next to nothing to do with the housing crisis or the cost of housing, you can check out last Friday's episode 406 of The Other Side. But the last thing that we need in this country is any more leftism or any more government, and certainly not any more rules and regulations. We are drowning in a nanny state hell. Our bureaucracy is way too big and fat, and decisions are made by control freak bureaucrats who are driven by serving themselves and keeping the size of government just growing and growing.
Good.
Our major opposition party isn't really living up to its stated values of classical liberalism either, nor is it fighting for small business, individual freedom and having a go, because it's too scared to upset anybody in the big fat lazy bureaucracy, academia, unions and media, because they've got all the power. And our minor alternative right-leaning parties are disorganised and not well supported by the people, sadly. We are facing the very real possibility, as I said, of a Labor, Green, Teal power-sharing government after this election. And if that alone is not enough to terrify the massive number of lefties that walk amongst us, nothing is going to terrify them into voting against leftism. Of the 100 people who attended that Leaders Forum, People's Forum thing, 44 said that they would vote for Albo. 21 said they still couldn't make up their minds. Give at least half of that to the Greens. And only 35 backed Peter Dutton. It is utterly unbelievable. All we can do as centre-right and right-wing Aussies is try to keep our sanity amid it all. And one way to do that is simply to turn off the mainstream news, because the coverage is shallow, dumb, and worst of all, demoralising, uninspiring and boring. You simply miss nothing of great value by not paying the slightest bit of attention to it. Go read a book, watch a good analytical YouTube video, or better still, watch this show. The very fact that we are even debating that the Liberal National Coalition might lose this election is astounding. If they can't win easily in a climate where we have candidates like this guy running for Parliament for the Greens, this is Avery Howard, the Greens candidate for the seat of Fowler around Liverpool and Cabramatta in New South Wales. Avery says everyone deserves to have a home, food and world-class health and education. Oh, Avery's a genius. He says that over the last few years, he's worked as an anti-poverty activist, which has opened my eyes to the disadvantage in Australia and the inaction that the major parties have bestowed upon us all. He says the Greens have a plan to make big corporations and billionaires pay their fair share to fund the things that we all need. Blah, 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 right? Because that's how economics works. It's really that simple. Just take all the money off the rich bastards and hand it to all the poor people. Gee, I think that was tried in the 20th century. Didn't quite work out, Avery. You might want to pick up a book for once in your life. And then there's the 4 Greens that are already in the Parliament. Now, they could end up having actual power in a shared Labor, Green, Teal government, like I was saying. Like the member for Ryan in West Brisbane, the Green Elizabeth Watson-Brown.
Next step is to fold in the cheese.
What does that mean? What does fold in the cheese mean?
He folds it in.
I understand that, but how do you fold it? Do you fold it in half like a piece of paper and drop it in the pot, or what do you do?
David, I cannot show you everything.
Okay, well, can you show me one thing?
Here's what you do. You just fold it in.
Okay, I don't know how to fold broken cheese like that.
I don't know how to be any clearer.
Authorised by Jay McCall, Australian Greens, Canberra.
See, I just don't even know what the hell that was. Was it Elizabeth's weekly community theatre group doing an election ad? Now, I've got to disclose fully and be transparent here. I'm particularly biased on this one. I ran in a Brisbane seat of Ryan for a minor party, the Lib Dems, last election. So I know a bit about how the Greens operate there and Elizabeth Watson-Brown's, in my humble opinion, unsuitability for federal office in this country. This time around, the Liberal National Party has a very good candidate in Ryan. Her name is Maggie Forrest. She's young, super energetic. She's a barrister with global experience, whip smart, and most of all, a very hard worker and a good, down-to-earth, everyday, sensible mum. I fully endorse her, Maggie Forrest, for Ryan, and I am backing her to take back Ryan for the LNP and save us from this radical, extremist, childish nonsense. Because, ladies and gentlemen, here is where Greens ideology leads. Let's take a look at what happened to Maggie Forrest's campaign office in the Brisbane seat of Ryan this past week.
The federal election campaign has turned nasty, with vandals unleashing on the campaign signage of LNP candidate for Ryan, Maggie Forrest. Her display splattered with spray paint and offensive flyers overnight. Maggie says the behaviour only makes her more determined in the lead-up to next month's poll.
Now, whoever did that was attacking both the Liberal Party and Labor in the messages that they left, so you make your own mind up about who it might have been. We don't actually know. But anyway, back to Elizabeth Watson-Brown and the Greens. If you saw last week's show, you'd have seen another of her awful TikTok videos. She's the gift that just keeps on giving. I truly have no idea what that new one we showed you earlier was about. Apparently, we can have free dental care woven into Medicare, and we don't have to worry about how it'll be paid for because they'll just tax the billionaires and the corporations. Okay, so firstly, can we just please all realise that Australia only has about 45 billionaires? We're actually going to deal with reality and maths here. Okay, so that might challenge a few of our Greens viewers if you're actually watching. So let's work it out. 45 billionaires, let's just say they're worth about 10 billion each on average, okay? And let's say that they had good years on average and they make about 10% of their net worth every year on top of that in income. So that'd be $1 billion of income each. So 45 billion income total across all 45 of them every year. So you've got $45 billion there to tax. Let's say we tax that at, 90%, shall we? We'd only raise around $40 billion. How much is $40 billion? Well, just the interest bill on our whopping national debt. Forget about the money we spend on government. the interest bill on our debt is about $70 billion a year. So it wouldn't even cover that, let alone dent the $730 billion annual federal budget. And that's just federal, not even state. And when you tax people, by the way, at 90%, they tend to leave. Or they quit working and investing. They give up. So good luck with that, Greenies. As for the corporations who pay no tax line that we just hear endlessly from the Greens to explain how they're going to pay for all their ludicrous and harebrained schemes, well, that's because they're corporations that actually aren't making any profit. And even if they aren't making any profit, and let's say they're somehow magically getting around Australia's highly intrusive and heavily enforced tax rules by legally minimising their tax through some loophole, of which there aren't too many left, any tax that they would pay is ultimately borne by us, their customers. Corporations' tax is always a tax on us. It always gets paid by us when we buy stuff. So the whole tax the billionaires and corporations thing is a crock of nonsense aimed at morons. And after 4 years of doing this show and explaining over and over again how dumb it is to think that way, I don't know about you, but I've had enough. I give up. I know you guys watching are all very smart, but unfortunately we seem to be surrounded by a lot of fools in this country. 12%. I simply cannot believe this number. 12% of Australians still want to vote Green, according to the polls. Hence, my complete lack of optimism this week.
And a new survey has found 53% of 18 to 24-year-olds think Australia should be more socialist.
Wow.
There's a distinct generational divide. Australians over 35 are more likely inclined to be neutral, preferring neither socialism nor capitalism.
That's from mid-last year, by the way, but it's always worth a reminder. If our fellow Australians were in their right minds, this election should be a total no-brainer and a complete cakewalk for Peter Dutton and the Liberals. But our fellow Australians seem to have been brainwashed by an education system and media that paint a picture of the world as some place where mean people are hoarding all the money and all we have to do is vote Green and Labor and go take it back off them. It's an infantile worldview that most people grow out of when they turn about 14. But not in modern Australia. I can tell you one thing about what might happen after this election if we do wind up with a leftist coalition of Labor, Teals and Greens as our government after May 3. I know a lot of productive people in this country who have had enough. They are simply sick to death of paying tax all the time. They are ready to just pack it in and either retire to the beach or leave because they're fed up with paying tax after tax after tax and funding politicians and public servants on both major parties, by the way, with their pathetic waste and their pet projects and their excessive regulation, and then, on top of it all, having to put up with their arrogance and their lefty ingratitude and their sense of entitlement, walking around condemning anyone who actually manages to make a profit in this country as some kind of rich bastard who doesn't deserve it. Small business people in Australia are fed up. They do all the employing, they do all the hard work, they are drowning in bad government regulations and over-taxation and admin, and they get no credit and then they get condemned if they are successful. What a great culture we got going here. Making a profit in this country as a small business could not be harder. The fat cats we should be condemning are the managerial class bureaucrat public servants. They take no risk, they're accountable to no customers, they're not carrying or worrying about how they're going to meet payroll every month or worrying about their employees, and they are comparatively grossly unproductive people. They spend their days making the rest of us more unproductive as well with their excessive dumb rules and regulations. We are sick of you. So watch out, because pretty soon there's going to be nobody in this country left for you to tax. The other side doesn't get more than $1 billion of taxpayers' money to bring you news from a centre-right perspective like the ABC does to bring you news from a left-wing perspective. In fact, we don't get a red cent from the government. We need voluntary donors and supporters like you to keep going and growing. And we hate asking for charity, so we've done a deal with what we think is the world's best VPN, virtual private network service. It'll keep you and your family truly safe without slowing down your internet speeds, and you can watch Netflix or other streaming services using your regular accounts with them as if you're viewing from any country in the world. And you can sign up for less than $3 a month and get a whopping 83% off the normal price. Just go to piavpn.com/otherside to sign up and get more info. That's piavpn.com/otherside. That was a segment from a recent episode of our fortnightly news commentary show, The Other Side, with me, Damien Curry. If you liked it, support us. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube right now so you don't miss a thing. It's totally free. Just click that subscribe button and the little bell. And check out our Other Side Unplugged show too, and join our mission to actually do something and change Aussie media for the better at othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Check it out now.